Hey! Welcome back to my channel. Here's another long video, Magic the Gathering lore combined with some ideas for you guys. And for today, we are gonna use Karl Marx ideas to study or understand the lore of the Brothers' War set. Before anything else, let me introduce myself. I am Moshi Danny, and I upload short videos of Magic the Gathering card lore on this channel. Check the shorts section of my channel for this MTG card lore. I'm pretty sure you guys will love these short videos. Sure, they are like 2 or 3 minutes long, but trust me, they are worth your time. So do check them out and please watch them. And click like on those videos. I'm proud of those creations, that's why I'm pushing them here. And occasionally, when I have anxiety, or if I go crazy, I write essays about ideas that I try to marry with MTG lore and cards and produce them as picture books via PowerPoint. And before I start, may I ask you guys to please subscribe to this channel. Making videos like this, writing the long essay, looking for pictures, researching and so on and so forth takes a lot of work. And it would really mean a lot for me if you guys would hit the subscribe button. It's like every subscription that I get, it inspires me to make more Magic the Gathering short lore videos and then long videos like this one. So please, hit the subscribe button. And with that out of the way, here's my video about the Brothers' War lore through the lens of Karl Marx's ideas. For the introduction, it's mostly a review of two things. First, we will try to review the lore of the Brothers' War. And then second, a review of the ideas, Marx's ideas that we will use in this video. For chapter 1, it's all about looking at the Brothers' War lore through the lens of historical materialism. Chapter 2, looking at the Brothers' War lore through the lens of the class struggle. And then final thoughts for all of this. So let's start with the introduction. The Brothers' War lore review and Marx's ideas to be used to study the Brothers' War. What is the Brothers' War? The Brothers' War, also known as the Antiquities War, was the great legendary war between the brothers Mishra and Urza that spawned after the two uncovered ancient Thran power stones in a forgotten ruin. A single disagreement over ownership and purpose of said stones fractures their bond, transforming philosophical differences into lifelong hatred. So basically, this story is about two brothers who each found a magical pebble, and they had a disagreement about who will own these pebbles and how to use them. A disagreement over pebbles that turned into a world war. Yep, typical thing for man to do, to fight over rocks. Of course, I'm just oversimplifying things here, but you get the idea. Separated, the brothers rise to power on opposite sides of Dominaria. Urza establishes the nation of Yotia, or at least became the de facto leader, advancing civilization through logic, engineering, and rigid control. Mishra allies with the desert-dwelling Falagi, a nation of nomads and warriors in the western deserts of Teresier. With them, Mishra embraced conquest and dominance through superior force. Each brother believes he alone understands how the world should be shaped. Their rivalry ignites a massive arms race, as both reverse engineer Thran technology into increasingly destructive war machines. What begins as political conflict evolves into decades of mechanized warfare that scars continents and annihilates countless lives. However, unbeknownst to Urza, Mishra's ambition opens the door to Phyrexia. Gradually corrupted and partially completed, Mishra becomes less human and a little bit more machine-like. The Brothers' War ceases to be merely fraternal. It becomes an existential threat to Dominaria itself, after the threat of Phyrexia infiltrates the world through Mishra. Small complaint. Dear Watsy, why would you design Mishra to look like Tezzeret? Bruh. The first time I came back to MTG, I thought these two were connected, the same, or related or something like that. Bro, Watsy, come on man, you cannot come up with a better design for Mishra? Bruh. Of course, Ursa himself transforms. In essence, he sacrifices humanistic empathy and morality in pursuit of victory, in a way making him just like the very monstrosity he seeks to destroy. The conflict ends where it began, at Argoth, an island continent that both brothers exploited for resources to fuel their selfish war. Here, when Urza confronts Mishra, he realizes his brother is irretrievably lost. Quick note, look, Urza's design here looks like Dark Magician from Yu-Gi-Oh! Here, I'll prove it. Look at this, look at that, look at this, look at that. Ain't that kinda fishy? Going back, this happens, and Urza is forced to kill his completed brother. Urza activates the Golgothian Silex in despair and causes one large catastrophic explosion. The resulting explosion obliterates Argoth, devastates the plane, and plunges Dominaria into a catastrophic ice age. And again, all of this because of an argument over magical pebbles. In that moment, Urza dies and is reborn as Urza Planeswalker, when his spark ignites from the catastrophic destruction. For non-MTG fans out there, a Planeswalker is someone who can jump from one dimension to another. Plane plus Walker. Get it? The Brothers' War leaves no victors, only ruin, regret, and a legacy that is both admirable and questionable. From its ashes, rise a new struggle. The long struggle against Phyrexia. What lessons are learned from the Brothers' War? The enduring lesson that unchecked ambition and technology, divorced from compassion, inevitably leads to annihilation. Karl Marx's ideas to be used to study the Brothers' War lore. There are two ideas that we will use. First, the historical materialism idea, and second, the idea of class struggle. With that introduction out of the way, let's start with Chapter 1. The Brothers' War and Historical Materialism. What is historical materialism? Karl Marx's theory of historical materialism argues that history is driven not by ideas, morals, or heroic individuals, but by material conditions, specifically by the way societies produce and organize economic life. According to Marx, the economic base, i.e., the mode of production and control of material resources, shapes the superstructures of politics, law, culture, religion, and ideology. And when the mode of production changes, society is forced to reorganize itself, often through conflict. The Brothers' War is historical materialism in action, and let me tell you why. For Chapter 1, it is divided into 3 sections. Section 1, a general look into Urza and Mishra's action. Section 2, instances where historical materialism can be observed in the Brothers' War lore. And Section 3, conclusion. Chapter 1, Section 1, a general look. The way I understood the entire lore of the Brothers' War is something like this. The Brothers' War was not only powered up by ideology, personality, or morality. The war was promoted. Rather, the war was escalated by a change in the mode of production, because Urza and Mishra needed it to be. We can observe this pre-war, during the war, and after the war. What were Urza's actions pre-war, during the war, and post-war? Urza prepared for the Brothers' War by rigorously studying Thran antiquities to understand their power, function, and replicability. Urza transformed artifact work from isolated tinkering into industrial-scale production, constructing automated war machines to replace human soldiers. Through political alliances and patronage, he secured resources and legitimacy, building fortified factories devoted to research and manufacture. Urza developed advanced power sources to sustain non-stop output and designed layered defenses to counter Mishra's machines. He centralized command and logistics, escalating technological growth relentlessly. Ultimately, Urza planned for the total annihilation, securing and safeguarding the Golgothian Silex, a very powerful material that will be used to eventually end the war and influence Dominaria's history. Quick note, though the Silex was not of Urza's creation, it was still a quote-unquote material product of a possible arms race from a different civilization millennia before Urza and Mishra were even born. Fellow nerds, we still have a chance to become a main character like Urza. We just need to find magical pebbles, bully our younger brother, and become a very bad husband and make political alliances. Kidding. I'm just kidding. Here are Mishra's actions pre-war, during the war, and then post-war. Mishra prepared for the Brothers' War through rapid expansion, adaptation, and increasingly reckless escalation. Just like his brother, Mishra also studied Thran technology. More importantly, he studied the Thran power stones to fuel swift technological growth. After encountering Gix, Mishra integrated Phyrexian technology, embracing biomechanical augmentation and corruption. He commanded the Phalagi, combining conventional armies with ever-advancing machines with his ability to create and produce materials needed for the war. Mishra favored speed over refinement. He modified artifacts directly on the battlefield. Mishra constructed massive war engines such as dragon engines and fused flesh and metal. Mishra often relied on conquest and intimidation to secure power, continually escalating production of his weapons in response to Urza. Ultimately, Phyrexian influence eroded Mishra's autonomy. Mishra was like, "Urza, you rely too much on artifact tools!" And Mishra goes on to become a tool himself for the Phyrexians. What a big lol. Chapter 1, Section 2. Historical Materialism in the Brothers' War Lore. Urza and Mishra did not start history during their time, nor after it. They had only greatly influenced it, because of their legendary artificery and their selfish decision to escalate the war. From the lore, it was their material power and the ability to produce goods, i.e., technological weapons, that greatly influenced what happened and what was to happen to Dominaria. This impact can still be felt centuries into the modern-day lore of Dominaria. I believe that this lore is a great example for Karl Marx's historical materialism. How so? I identify 5 instances where historical materialism can be observed in the Brothers' War lore. Instance number 1. The economic base. Antiquities' war as a new mode of production influencing their society. Instance number 2. The Brothers' War is not a battle of ideology or personality only. It is also a battle of who has control of a better production that can help win the war. Instance number 3. The superstructure changes as Urza and Mishra escalates their mode of production. Kingdoms change with this and become appendages of the war industry. Instance number 4. Escalation because of the observed differences between each other's mode of production. And of course, the Phyrexian infiltrating the war and the discovery of the Silex. And instance number 5. If we allow unchecked production of powerful war weapons to happen, it could eventually lead to total war as we have seen in the history of the Brothers' War lore. Alright, are you guys ready for some long, boring lecture? I hope you are. Let me start. But before I do, may I humbly ask you again to subscribe to my channel? Making long videos like this really is a hard work, so I would really appreciate it if you guys would show support by subscribing to this channel. Alright, let's start. Let's check historical materialism in the Brothers' War lore, starting with instance number 1, the economic base. Antiquities' war as a new mode of production, influencing their society. Before Urza and Mishra, warfare in the territories the brothers inhabited in or visited was limited among small different tribes, not really a global or a world war. Power was localized, tribal, and not large scale. Production was artisanal and small scale within each locality or tribes. It's possible that neighboring domains traded with each other. Then the Antiquities' War happened, changing everything. Artifacts became reproducible war capital. Machines replaced human labor and skill, and as combatants of the war. Power scales exponentially. This is the Brothers' War equivalent of industrialization, but an industrialization for their war's benefit. When the means of production transformed, means of production for their war materials, all socio-political structures and relations that the brothers were involved in has to transform as well. Quick note, each brother must keep up, i.e. transform, or else they will be annihilated by the opposing side who is already advancing in their tech and production. Instance number 2. The Brothers' War is not a battle of ideology or personality only. It is also a battle of who has control of a better production that can help win the war. For Mishra, he wanted order and power, had the means to obtain knowledge, but was more into chaos and ambition. And for Urza, he also wanted power, order, and a strong means of production, knowledge and progress, control, and so much more. Both brothers are competing against each other, rather escalating things. It's more about who can produce more efficient products and fast. Both brothers built factories, foundries, supply chains, and logistic networks just to try to keep up. Both brothers caused the creation of large armies, coupled with their ability to produce weapons and other creature types to join the war. Their power of production, gained from their extensive studies of Thran tech with their power stones, allowed them to escalate this production. Their philosophies in this sibling conflict about this escalated war emerges clear only after their material positions are established. And if I may be allowed to simplify, the war between these two was not because one was INTP and the other was ESTP. It was more like this. "I have this scary machine and I will kick your butt with it," said Ursa. "I have this big scary machine and will kick your butt with it," said Mishra. There you go. That's the simplest I can explain this part of the lecture. Instance number 3. The superstructure changes as Urza and Mishra escalates their mode of production. Kingdoms change with this and become appendages of the war industry. Quick note, a superstructure is all non-economic aspects of society, culture, law, politics, religion, education, and art that arise from and reflect the economic base, or how goods are produced. Once mass production of war artifacts and weapons begins, politics changes. Now it's more centralized war states, kingdoms for each of the brothers' nations. Law also changes. Laws for mobilization, conscription, espionage, tolerating war crimes, secrecy, and more, instead of creating laws to benefit the people. The culture also changes. There is now a glorification of machines and domination. No longer skirmishes among small tribes within small borders, but now a war among great nations, and it becomes part of their culture. This idea of having a great big war against another big nation. Science also changes, especially on production, because it is now part of their culture. Localities now evolved into mass production. There is technology advancements, yes, but a subordinated mode of production, mostly to benefit military output, not really to benefit the people. Alliances changes. Now, even neutral nations are absorbed or destroyed, or are forced into a war they didn't want to become part of. The superstructure reorganizes itself to serve the economic base of war production. And if we think that a positive socio-cultural benefit is the result of this escalation of production for war materials, I think it's not. No benefit for the people, not for the tribes, not for the country or territory. Quick note, maybe the only benefit here is that feeling of belonging to a group, or that patriotic feeling and being proud that you belong to a quote and unquote powerful group. But is this even really a benefit? The mode of production was for the benefit of the heads of the brothers' war. And then, the war economy becomes society itself. It becomes the norm for the followers and for those who are born into it, believing that the mode of production they grew up witnessing is totally a normal part of their lives. Okay. To be fair, I might be overreaching here or possibly exaggerating, but that's how I imagine the lower part of society would be in the Brothers' War. Just like how the lower parts of the society in the real world adjust to what the superstructure is, which itself adjusted to the mode of production. Instance number 4. Escalation because of the observed differences between each other's mode of production. Neither brother can stop. If they choose to stop production, it will mean defeat of their nation. It will also mean their defeat personally. So, this idea of trying to achieve peace through their agreed neutrality for talks, it won't happen. It won't happen because the production is already escalated to a degree Urza and Mishra were consuming too much resources. They have managed to convince thousands into this war and have exploited too many people already. This idea of wanting to stop the Brothers' War could actually spell economic collapse within their socio-economic system. So, to prevent defeat and economic collapse, more production is demanded and more war to justify it. Thus, the already escalated production is further escalated to another level. Because of this, there's now a greater sense of urgency to find more land for resources and more people to exploit just so the war machines continues moving. This is very much observed when Urza and Mishra searched for more resources, found Argoth, and competed for the resources of Argoth. The system of production established by Urza and Mishra produces forces it cannot socially, politically, or even magically control anymore. The system of production established by each brother accelerated way too fast, and it's impossible for it to be stopped. That, the Brothers' War continues not because the brothers wanted to continue. Well, to be fair, they did want the war. The war continued because the mode of production requires it. One side advances in their technology of production, the other must follow. If one side creates a new strong weapon, then the other side must catch up and create a new and even stronger weapon. This becomes a cycle that repeats with new technologies, new production processes, new discoveries, new whatever thingamajig they produce as an advantage to have during the war. Until the war production machine becomes too big and too ingrained within the society and culture that stopping it is not anymore possible. The Brothers' War is an arms race that will not stop until one side or both sides creates something or discovers something to be used in the war that is so destructive it doesn't give a victory. Rather, it gives annihilation. Quick note, the lore is fiction, but the idea applies to the real world. Let's look at it. Observe the parallel of this lore to the story of the nuclear race in our real world. We might think as a reasonable species, we are already way past this. But the nuclear race among big and powerful nations didn't really stop. And the arms race is much more pronounced now because of the rapid growth of AI tech, continued fight for land and resources, and escalated political tensions among nations. We are still the same apes with sticks trying to kill each other for some magical pebble. I started working on this essay around the first weeks of January, completed a draft on January 29, completed the final copy of this essay around February 21, and started working on this PowerPoint around the end of the last week of February. Now it's March, and World War III seems to be knocking just around the corner. Bruh, please don't let this World War III end like the ending of this Brothers' War lore. Bruh. Instance number 5. If we allow unchecked production of powerful war weapons to happen, it could eventually lead to total war, as we have seen in the story of the Brothers' War. With the Brothers' War intensified, landscapes were turned into industrial wastelands. Human life becomes a war piece, a resource that is badly treated with irrelevance. Paradoxically, the technology and artifacts of war that is mass-produced could outlive the people that produced them. And when Urza activated the Silex, this one powerful artifact that ended the war, it did not provide the Lord Artificer any sort of moral triumph. Having to activate and use the Silex was the illness resulting from the symptoms of the systemic failure from their society, which, as we already know from the lore, was turned into a production machine for war materials. Or at least that's how I understood this part. The Brothers' War lore tells us that the only thing gained from all this escalation of war was the destruction of Dominaria and the death of possibly millions. When productive forces outgrow social control, history resolves this contradiction through catastrophe. It's like, hoo hoo, ha ha, I, bigger ape, have bigger stick, I stronger than you dead, bonk. That's it. That's the simplest way I can explain this part. Conclusion. The Brothers' War, from the point of view of historical materialism, is a warning. The Brothers' War, Magic the Gathering set lore is less about who was right and who was wrong. For me, it was generally about how technology reshaped their society, how production dictated their values, how individuals became agents of historical forces through their powers of production. Take note, Urza is not the hero. Mishra is not the villain. They are just historical figures who were lucky enough to have obtained something that have given them the ability to control production, that shaped economic and socio-political structure of their land. It's not all about knowledge. From this lore, control over the strongest mode of production is also power. Knowledge is just part of it. The Brothers' War wasn't fought because Urza and Mishra hated each other. It happened because the escalated means of production made peace very impossible. And that the only way to rid the world of this detestable war was, it seems, for Dominaria to have a big reset. And that exactly is what it got when the Golgothian Silex was activated by Urza. Continental destruction, global catastrophe, Ice Age after, and then the reset. That ends chapter 1. Before we continue, again, I hope you guys click the subscribe button now. It really takes a lot of work to make videos like this. So you guys subscribing, showing support by subscribing really means a lot for me. So please hit the subscribe button. Now, let's continue. Chapter 2. The Brothers' War and Class Struggle. Chapter 2 is divided into 4 sections. Section 1. A review of Marx's class struggle. Section 2. What is the idea behind this class struggle? Section 3. The class struggle in the lore of the Brothers' War. I identified 5 instances. And Section 4. Conclusion for Chapter 2. Chapter 2, Unit 1. A review of Marx's class struggle. For Marx, history is the record of conflict between economic classes. Here's a quick review of ideas and vocabs, juxtaposing it with Brothers' War lore. A. Classes are defined by their relationship to the means of production. B. Who are the bourgeoisie and proletariat in the Brothers' War lore? For the bourgeoisie, we already know that they own the land, factories, and capital. In lore, Urza and Mishra, and the high-position subordinates they have are the bourgeoisie. Proletariat, meanwhile, they own their labor, which they must sell to survive. These are the people that the brothers exploited, enslaved, and controlled and are seen as disposable. C. The interests are fundamentally opposed between these two classes. Profit for the bourgeoisie versus wages for the proletariat. In the Brothers' War lore, victory for Urza and Mishra versus the survival of the people. Thus, social change occurs through ongoing conflict between the exploiters and the exploited. Chapter 2, Unit 2. What is the idea behind this class struggle? For Marx, class struggle is the engine of history. Society is divided into classes based on their relationship to the means of production. One class controls this means and extracts values, the bourgeoisie, while the other performs the labor and is exploited, the proletariat. Because their material interests are fundamentally opposed, conflict is inevitable. Political systems, ideology, and culture exist largely to stabilize this economic domination, until contradictions erupt into open conflict. The superstructure or the legal, political, and cultural institutions, including religion, education, and art, that arise from and reflect the economic base of society is that thing that stabilizes the society, until it doesn't, until it cannot. Then, history advances through conflict between those who control resources and those who are used to produce them. Chapter 2, Unit 3. The class struggle in the lore of the Brothers' War. Although the bigger lore of the Brothers' War was about the personal feud between Urza and Mishra, the story in of itself contains Marxist ideas about class struggle. But we can only see this if we turn our sights on the parts involved in the entire lore, on those that were involved in the production and creation of war materials and weapons. So here are instances where we can observe the class struggle in the lore of the Brothers' War. So let's start with instance A, control of the means of production. Urza and Mishra are not merely rival brothers that despised each other. They are ruling technocrats who monopolize Thran technology, power stones, and artifact production. They control the means of war production, transforming entire societies into militarized economies. The Falagi, Argivians, Yotians, and other populations played minor roles in managing or owning this technological stuff that Mishra and Urza had power over. Instead, these local populations labored, mined, fought for, and died to sustain the production and the war, all to satisfy the demands and needs of the brothers Urza and Mishra. This relationship between the brothers and the local people created a sharp class divide. On one side, the ruling class. The ruling class obviously are Urza and Mishra, and their respective family and political military personnel. They commanded knowledge, artifacts, and strategic decision-making. This is especially true for the brother. And on the other side, the subordinate class. They would be the low-ranked soldiers, the workers who either volunteered for the cause or were forced into the cause, and civilians that maybe didn't want to become part of the Brothers' War, but were pulled into it and reduced to expendable war pieces. Instance B, exploitation and surplus value. The war demands constant extraction of labor and resources. Entire populations are mobilized, but the benefits of this production, power, dominance, and legacy increase only towards the brothers' needs and demands. This reflects Marx's idea of surplus value. The value created by labor is appropriated by those in control, not by those who produced it. This also ties into one of Marx's popular idea called alienation, that the workers are removed from the product they are making by meaning, by value, or by mastery of process. Urza and Mishra's workers are treated no differently than the disposable war machines the brothers build. War is not a kid's plaything. It is a man's province, and he does as he pleases. What I mean by this is that everything happens in war, from the horrific to the unimaginable. From this, I think it's safe to assume that locals under the rule of Urza and Mishra were very much exploited. A struggle they had to endure only to be rewarded with a catastrophic end. Instance C, ideology and false consciousness. Both sides justify the war through ideology, security, destiny, progress, and loyalty, and so on. But these narratives are just told to obscure the reality that the masses are being sacrificed for the elite's rivalry. This aligns with false consciousness, where exploited classes internalize ruling class narratives and fight against their own material interests. Quick note, of course, both brothers have followers who are 100% for their war, who are willing to die for the cause, either that of their bosses or for their nation. But ever wondered who drilled this kind of thinking into them? Who made this part of their bigger consciousness? Ever think of that? Instance D, dehumanization of the lower class. As the war lingers on, soldiers from both sides become disposable and irreplaceable, either with non-organic creatures or replaced with bodies fused with machines. Dehumanization from Mishra's side. Mishra had a chief artificer named Ashnod, who had the capabilities of fusing dead and living flesh, then later flesh with machines, especially observable during the infiltration of the Phyrexians. Laborers are slaves that can be disposed of like trash. How I understood the story is Mishra became detached to a certain point, detached cruel, which his followers understood as a permission to also act the same. Dehumanization from Urza's side. In his pursuit of victory, Urza regarded the common soldiers and workers under his command as expendable, sacrificing them in vast numbers during the decades-long war, which later is said he regrets doing. As Lord High Artificer, Urza was entirely engrossed in his work, ignoring his wife, his apprentice, and the emotional well-being of his allies. And of course, conflict arose from the brothers' dehumanizing treatment of their people. For the side of Mishra, Ashnod ultimately betrayed Mishra because of him becoming too heartless and becoming machine-like, literally, both in heart and in body. And on Urza's side, the wife, Kayla bin Krug, deeply resented Urza because of him becoming too focused on victory and becoming too machine-like, figuratively, in heart and in body. Instance E. The war became systemic, not personal. From a Marxist lens, the Brothers' War is not caused by hatred alone, but by an economic and technological system that concentrates power, accelerates production, and requires perpetual conflict to sustain itself, as we have already established in the Historical Materialism chapter. Urza and Mishra are agents of that system. Yes, they are the main characters of the Brothers' War set lore, but for me, not the main characters of the results of their choices and actions within that world. Because for me, the war is the main character. The brothers became war pieces themselves for this war that became too systemic. Exactly just like their soldiers and workers and the machines they created for the war. The brothers were just exceptions because they have the know-how of production, and of course they possess the power stones. Urza and Mishra themselves became pawns of the war system they helped create. Mishra having to succumb to the Phyrexian influence, and Mishra as a willing participant due to his consuming, desperate desire for power and victory over his brother Urza. And for Urza, he became the guy who almost destroyed Dominaria. Seeing his brother entirely consumed by Phyrexian influence and realizing that the war was being manipulated by Phyrexians to destroy Dominaria, a distraught and rage-filled Urza activated the Golgothian Silex to stop the invasion. He had no choice. This decision had to be made because war was escalated to such levels. Urza, High Lord Artificer, became a mere pawn for the war, and let out one catastrophic blast to end all of it. Quick note, taking this moment to show love to this art. I love interpreting this as if he's asking for an applause after the end of his saga's first chapter, after a great quote-unquote performance, or something like that. But there's a subtle contrast in this art, and I really love that very subtle contrast. This war system was so exploitative and too escalated that it annihilated the society that sustained it and the players that started it, and using its two main players as pawns for the catastrophic blast to happen. A subtle contradiction, correctable only with one big reset. Sure, Urza survived as Urza Planeswalker, but the author could have also chosen to just kill Urza and move on. I feel like this was the better ending for Urza, if you really wanted a big reset for Dominaria. But hey, I'm not the author of the Brothers' War lore, so I'm just here talking about it. Conclusion. Marx's class struggle helps reveal the Brothers' War as a tragedy of structural exploitation. Beneath the legendary artifacts and sibling rivalry lies a familiar pattern. Elites controlling production, masses bearing the cost, ideology masking exploitation, and history culminating into a catastrophic collapse. So that ends the lecture. But I want to clarify something before you guys share your hate for this video. So before you guys crucify me, for those who know more about the Brothers' War lore and Marxist ideas, I am not an expert on both topics. I just wrote this essay with the current stock knowledge I have about Marx and of course my love for the Brothers' War set lore. I was not trying to be like this smart dude on the internet. Bro, I just write. I think and I write and then that's it. I just really like to write, nothing more. That is all. If you made it this far and enjoyed this video, subscribe! Satisfy the capitalistic monster inside me by subscribing to my channel. I'm kidding. If you guys made it to this part of the video and you enjoyed this content, may I ask for your subscription? Again, every subscription that I get, every one of you guys that subscribe really inspires me to make more videos like this. I upload MTG card lore short videos. That's my whole shtick. And sometimes I upload long videos like this. So it would really mean a lot for me if you guys hit the subscribe button. And also click the like button. Share this video too if you guys may. See you in my next upload. Thanks for watching.